Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Maciej Litewski, Channel Marketing Manager for Trustwave EMEA, and I'll be your host. Over the next 45 minutes, we will look at how modern phishing attacks are used by AI and easy-to-use tools. We will share real-world examples discovered by our Trustwave Spider Labs teams, introduce you to managed phishing from Microsoft, and explain how you can strengthen your email defenses with AI-driven detection, ongoing policy tuning, and expert response built right into the Defender for Office. By the end of this session, you will know why managed phishing is a must for layered security and which key metrics will prove its value to your organization. We invite all of you to type your questions in the chat at any time. We will address them towards the end of the session. Now, I would like you all to welcome Alexandra Lloyd Edwards, who will continue with this webinar. Alex?
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mac. And good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to discuss a brand new service offering from Trustwave focused on phishing. What we're going to do today, firstly, is explore with the support of the world-leading Spider Labs research team, different and current major trends and themes for email-bound threats. And we'll give you examples of where we're tracking these trends live with regional specific examples and how these are being leveraged by threat actors today. We'll then move into a deep dive around Trustwave and how we can support you on your anti-phishing journey by maximising Defender for Office, supporting you with Trustwave phishing detection and response capabilities, and leading into how you can really start your journey with Trustwave today. We'll then move into a live Q&A session with a panel of experts today to finish off the session. Just a quick reminder, as Mac mentioned, please do drop your questions into the chat as we go along. We'll make sure that we answer those for you ASAP, either in the chat or in the live session at the end of today. So let's take a quick look at our expert panel today and make some formal introductions. So leading our phishing threat intelligence section today, we have our VP of Spider Labs, the wonderful Ed Williams. And then taking us into our managed phishing deep dive, we have Senior Director of Trustwave Strategy, Matthew Trudeau. I'll be joining you again for next steps in Q&A, but for now I will leave you in the very safe hands of Ed Williams to kick off today's session with that deep dive into threat intelligence themes. Over to you, Ed, sir. You're unmuted.
Let me try that again. Thanks, Alex. Let me just share my screen. It's good to be with everybody today. So let's get this up and running. Okay, fantastic. So as Alex mentioned, I'm Ed Williams. I'm the VP of Spider Labs. So we do a lot of pen testing and threat intel and making sure everybody's nice and safe from these types of threats. So we know that phishing is really important. We know that the bad guys like to use phishing. We know that 94% of organizations have reported being hit by phishing in the last year. You know, these are serious numbers. When I think about when we're conducting penetration testing and red teams and purple teams, phishing is always the go-to way that we get in. There's a number of reasons for that, and we'll dive into some of those later on. But it is such a pernicious attack vector that it needs a special subject on its own. We've also seen 500, circa 500% increase in phishing attacks. And I suppose you've got to ask yourself, why is that? So phishing is with the QR codes. We know that it works. When we conduct pen tests, red teams and purple teams, clients, their security isn't where it needs to be. And we know that those QR codes get through and then we're able to leverage those QR codes. And we know that the financial loss around that is significant. 55 billion due to business email compromise, which always leads through phishing. And then when a user then can get their phishing up and running, then they can go into the organization through lateral movement and other nasty things. So it's a really pernicious way. And we've also seen with the increase in AI, it's a lot easier to create really sophisticated and complicated phishing scenarios. So again, we're leveraging those in Spider Labs, but the bad guys are also leveraging them. So we know that phishing is really bad. And I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. So some of the type of threats that we see. So phishing as a service, as I mentioned there, is rampant. With the rise of AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, it's so much easier for bad guys to create a platform that anybody can use, and then they can leverage those platforms. And of course, they have global reach. We see typically threats with benign attachment types. So examples here, HTML, SVG, or PDF files. Those are just 3 examples, but we know it can be literally anything. Anything that can get through to your organization, that's what they'll use. And what we also see is, with these platforms, there's a bit of threat intel behind there. There's a bit of AI behind there. So if, for example, an organization allows PDFs or Excel spreadsheets, that's what they'll use. They'll use that gap to get that attachment in. And once that attachment is, then it can get clicked upon, or it'll serve something up, and you're up and running as a bad guy. What we also see is the abuse of legitimate platforms. So DocuSign, Dropbox, all of these are really popular. And again, we know that these get used by the bad guys. Why do they get used by the bad guys? Because the good guys use them as well. So it's a real game of cat and mouse. And again, we're sort of sitting in between that area, and we see what the bad guys are doing, and we mimic it, and we're trying to innovate on things like that so we can get these things caught earlier. But it's certainly bad. And then again, an oldie and a goodie, but a URL open redirect where you can pivot off somebody's infrastructure to send something that looks like it's coming from somewhere that it shouldn't. So these issues have been around for a long time, but with the drive in AI and cloud, it's really amplified the ability for not sophisticated attackers to be able to get in there and to launch these really malicious attacks. Okay, so some of the types of trends that we're seeing. So probably the top 4 attachments. HTML is probably the obvious one. We use that ourselves. We know a lot of the bad guys use it. It's unbelievable that we're still seeing executables coming through. Like, I've been in penetration testing for over 20 years, and I was sending executables 20 plus years ago, but it still works. So if the bad guys are still able to get these things to execute, then why would they not use them? PDF, really popular. One, again, that we use all the time is sending a malicious CV to somebody in HR. That works really well. Similarly, it's not on this list, but certainly Excel spreadsheets are really good. Send them to finance type people. They're intrinsically born to open an Excel spreadsheet, and that's what we go for. And the last one here, which has sort of recently become more popular, is SVG. So image files. Because image files tend to be pretty complicated, you can embed something within those image files to get them then to do something else, which is inevitably what you're after. So pretty standard. None of this should come to a shock to you. The XCs does to me, but these are the things that you need to be looking for at your perimeter. So we've got 4 examples of the types of things that we've seen. So this was a one that we've seen with that's targeted to UAE. Had an SVG file in it, again, embedded JavaScript code. So once somebody opens that, it fires off the JavaScript, which is then obfuscated, so difficult for gateways to pick up. If I think about how we look to obfuscate code, the more complicated and the more obfuscated the code, the harder it is for it to be found. When I say obfuscated, what I mean is standard JavaScript code that doesn't look like standard JavaScript code. If you're just looking for a certain term at your gateway, it's going to be obfuscated in such a way that it isn't going to pick that up. Then that code will redirect to a phishing page, and then we're up and running then, looking, hoping somebody will put their credentials in. We can use those credentials and replay them then somewhere else. And I've just got a note here that Trustwave then has got aggressive heuristics for SVG files, which is really good. Okay, second one, which uses a QR code. Again, this probably seems to be the most popular method that we use and that we see being used in Trustwave, typically because gateways are not very good at finding them and looking into them, which is the issue. So this was a UK one where the code was sent. The URL is embedded within the QR code. That gets scanned. Could be on your phone or your portable device or even on your laptop. And then there's, you're up and running then with email verification. And we're then looking to find credentials that we can replay elsewhere. And again, Trustwave is able to find and mitigate these types of issues. PDF, probably one of my favorites, one of the all-time greats, I would say. Because of how complex PDF files are, you can embed code within them. And this example used like a double decode. So I had a PDF file and then a QR code inside it, which again is really difficult to find because you're your gateway software is going to have to find the PDF, understand there's a QR code in there, and then understand that the QR code is malicious. And then within there, then there was a 2FA PAS campaign, which we were able to bypass. So again, having 2FA is excellent and something we'd always recommend, but it isn't the be all and end all. So you need to make sure that you understand that having 2FA is not a panacea. It's just another step in your defense. And then the last example that I have here is a Nedbank HTML phishing campaign. Again, HTML really popular, always has been. This one was self-contained, so it had all the code within it. So when you opened it up, it automatically, locally put in the Nedbank online banking page. Then we would hope then that credentials could be harvested that way, and then we're up and running as a bad guy. But obviously, part of the training should be not to fill out these types of forms. Okay, that's me done. I'm going to hand over to Matt, and I hope to speak to everybody later.
Thanks, Ed. Share my screen here. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Ed. For those that don't know me, my name is Matt Trudeau. I oversee our global email security practice. And given Ed's examples, I think it's pretty clear that a lot of organizations are really struggling with various emerging tactics and techniques around phishing that threat actors are using to bypass defenses. And that is exactly why Trustwave has recently launched our new offering that we're calling Managed Phishing for Microsoft. Trustwave has always had a very close relationship with Microsoft. And from conversations we've had with clients, specifically those that are on E5, they're really looking for ways to maximize the effectiveness of their E5 purchase to reduce the threat of phishing. There's a few challenges we've seen across businesses across the world. One is Defender for Office has some really powerful tools and great features and functionality, but there are still some really advanced phishing tactics that are exploiting gaps and bypassing filters and reaching end users, which is never what you want to see. Second is just an overall lack of awareness from end users due to typically phishing training being often underused and ineffective, which can really lead to some risky behavior and create some major vulnerabilities within your environment. And then lastly, which has really been a common thread from what I've seen, it's just a lot of security teams not having visibility on the type of threats that are hitting their environment today. A lot of the times, they don't know what type of phishing threats coming into their environment, who is being attacked, and the like. And what this leads to is a lot of really slow investigations. And I've heard quite a bit of times that teams aren't actually able to get to a threat days, weeks, and sometimes even months before they know a threat is actually within their environment. So that's why a lot of organizations today are really looking for greater protection, faster response, and just overall more ongoing user awareness to really alleviate their security team in combating phishing. So that's where we've launched Managed Phishing for Microsoft, which is really, I'd like to say, the first of its kind in the market, and a few reasons for this. It is the only offering that prevents, detects, responds, and educates users all natively within Microsoft. So just to give a little context as well, this service is designed for anyone using Microsoft E5, because you need E5 to have a lot of the features and functionality and services that that we want to provide here. So the service has 5 core components to it. The first one is technology management. And at a high level, what this is we're really going to optimize our client's Defender for Office system. by configurations, rules, and tuning to improve and harden our clients' defenses. Second is detection enhancement. At Trustwave, we have a proprietary phishing engine that has quite a bit of machine learning engines within it and embedded into it. We will embed that into our client's environment to really reduce the threat exposure of phishing before it ever hits our users' inboxes. The third is we will now manage our clients' phishing simulation training. And the intent here is to improve user awareness and really mitigate human risk as it relates to phishing. What we will also do as well is 24/7 phishing threat response led by a global threat operations team. And here what we plan to do is identify, neutralize, and respond to phishing-based threats and other email-based threats that may hit our client's environment. And then lastly, to wrap it all up, reporting and intelligence. And this is where we would look across your environment from what we're seeing across phishing simulations and the threat response and what users are reporting to really get insights on what's going on in your environment, how are users behaving, what are some trends and patterns we are seeing that will lead into recommendations to improve our client security posture. So I'll go into each one of those 5 components a little more to explain a little bit at a granular detail of what type of service and value we are able to provide. So the first one, as I mentioned, technology management. Here's where we would essentially do twofold. One is we would set our clients up and making sure that they are using best of practice policies for Defender for Office. So we would review their email authentication. We would look at their protection policies and making sure they follow our golden policy to provide best-in-class protection while using Defender for Office. And we would also look at their allowed block list for tenants and domains and making sure we are blocking bad tenants and they don't hit their environment. We'd also work with clients to assign permissions and apply priority accounts and user tags. So this is some really cool functionality that a lot of organizations aren't utilizing. For example, priority accounts. We would work with the client to assign certain users as priority accounts, and they would get added security. Maybe they're C-suite and they have sensitive data, and they need a little bit more security around phishing and business email compromise than your average employee would. So we would work with the client to apply these tags and accounts as needed. And then what we would also do is set up Trustwave's proprietary email security engines with the client. So the client would then have a layered email security approach to really reduce the threat of phishing right off the bat. And then once we have the provisioning all set up, it would be an ongoing management of the Defender for Office technology where we would essentially be constantly reviewing what we should tune and configure on an ongoing basis based on what we're seeing from reporting insights, from the phishing simulation results we're getting, from best practices we're seeing and what Microsoft is recommending, as well as any client requests that we get. The second component to this offering, as I mentioned, is the detection enhancement component. So in this service, we will provide an additional layered security on top of Microsoft for inbound emails, just as an additional layer, really to reduce phishing threats from reaching our client's environment. So some core components to these email security engines. One, we utilize an API deployment, and there's a few key things here. One, there will be no need for an MX record change, which will ensure that our client's email flow is not altered at any point. as well as, because we have that API integration, we will also have integration with Microsoft's quarantine folder. So anything that our proprietary engines block will not go into Trustwave's quarantine folder. Everything will be sent through Microsoft's quarantine folder, where our managed security team will work natively to respond to any of those threats. And then through some of the research and testing we've done, we'll be able to reduce email-based threats, including phishing and business email compromise, with Defender for Office by about 99%. And we have tested this not only on ourselves, but also with other clients to really show the reduction in phishing that we're able to provide with our machine learning engines on top of Defender for Office. And the best thing about this is this solution is designed specifically for M365 and E5 clients, and we're able to deploy this very effortlessly and get our clients up and running within a matter of hours, and they'd have protection quite quickly. Third is we will manage our clients' phishing training simulations natively within Microsoft. And there's a few key things within this component that we do. One is we'll set up an initial meeting to really understand your environment. What common applications is your business using? What recent attacks have you faced? Which users might you want to target for phishing training, right? We'd set up that initial conversation with the client to really understand what they want to get out of these phishing training simulations. And once we understand their environment, how they're being attacked and what applications they use, we will then launch our phishing training simulations over the course of our engagement. And this comprises of three core components. One is we will have monthly phishing simulations, and these are more or less pre-built campaigns that mimic real world threats, right? And really to test organizational readiness. So this would go out once a month, and we would be able to report back on those findings and which users were actually good and reported the phish, and which ones actually were infiltrated through our test. The second are these quarterly tailored simulations. So these tailored simulations are really designed to attack certain users or departments or certain roles within your organization that a security team might want additional training towards, right? So a good example of this is typically, especially for large organizations, they might want to attack perhaps a finance department that has a little bit more sensitive data that they're handling, or maybe the C-suite, or perhaps they want to give a little bit more training to risk-prone users, so those that have been repeated offenders multiple times, and give a little bit more hand-holding training towards. Or another use case we had with a client a few weeks ago is, they're a large enterprise. The majority of their users speak and work in English. However, there's a subset of users that are in Spain, and they want to give specific tailored simulations in Spanish to those users. We would be able to do that. And then lastly would be biannual training campaigns. So these are interactive training modules that we would assign to all users across the organization to really address knowledge gaps with how to report a phish or any other email-based threat within your environment. So some of the benefits here is really strengthening user awareness around phishing threats, identifying vulnerable users that have been repeated offenders that we might want to upskill on how to address and look for phishing within your environment. And then lastly, the great thing about this is delivered all seamlessly through our managed security team through your Microsoft ecosystem. Fourth is we will also provide phishing threat response. So there are a few other managed phishing services that providers have, and what they typically do is they will triage and respond to critical, high, and medium alerts within Defender for Office, all natively, which we are doing as well. The added component that we are now adding to our service that a lot of our competitors do not have is we are going to have 24/7 triage and response to user-reported phishing or malware submissions. And Trustwave finds this very important to do. These are typically classified as a low alert. However, if we're training and upskilling your organization to be that first line of defense through the phishing simulations, and we're asking our clients and users to report phishing after giving them the proper training, we should also be looking at those types of threats and responding to them in real time as they come in. So that's an extra component that we will now be responding to. And the best part is because we also have that detection enhancement, anything that's submitted to Microsoft as a threat will also be sent to our Spider Labs team that will improve our detection engines and make sure that any type of threat that might have been missed by Defender for Office and our machine learning engines will get updated to make sure that that never happens again. And lastly, the fifth component to the service is reporting and intelligence. And here, there are two types of reports that we will provide. One is a weekly report that we will send to our clients, giving them an overview of what type of phishing threats have potentially hit their environment, what have we blocked, what are some human behavior that we're seeing. And then secondly is a monthly readout of various phishing reports, and you'll see the 4 reports there on the right. So an executive summary of what's happening in your environment, what is being blocked, what are the response actions that Trustwave has taken, what are some malicious activity we're seeing, right? Specifically to phishing and BEC threats, what malicious domains and detection technologies are trying to hit your environment. We'll also look into human risk reports. So we're going to highlight some risky user behavior, who's actually submitting phishing alerts, right? And who are clicking on bad URLs. And then lastly, we will also provide some reporting around the phishing simulation we did that month and look at how users are performing, could be by department as well, how are the training completion rates, and then also look at repeated offenders and what we might want to do there. And all of this will feed into recommendations and insights on next steps to really harden your security posture. So bringing this all together, the managed phishing from Microsoft is really intended to close the loop against phishing. And this slide here really gives a great example of how all of these components work together to close the loop on phishing attacks and eradicate it from your environment. So a typical use case here is an inbound email attempts to reach an end user. It comes into your environment through the internet. Typically, what will happen if you're on a managed phishing from Microsoft, if you're on that the service we've just launched, is it will go through Microsoft's Defender for Office layers first and their filters first as that first layer of security. Once it goes through all the filters and blocks all the bad emails, Defender for Office will send all of their good emails to our machine learning engines that will act as a second layer of security and block anything that Microsoft may have missed. Once Trustwave has run our filters, it will then be delivered, the email will be delivered to the end user. Now, because we are training our clients' users to be that first line of defense and really look for phishing-based threats, we expect our clients and users to report anything that's suspicious as it relates to phishing-based emails, right? And that will essentially, anything that they report will have 2 actions towards it. One, anything that's reported will be sent back to our proprietary machine learning engines to update our telemetry and make sure our filters are improved, so those types of threats don't hit any of our clients again. And then second, as something is reported in real time, our global threat operations team will respond to that threat 24/7 and eradicate it if it is a threat. That will lead into some insights and reporting that we can show to our clients on the threats that are being faced within their environment and the actions that we have taken. And then all of that will lead into and feed back into the technology management component, that first component I was talking around, where we will be able to update policies, rules, and configurations based on the intelligence and reporting that we are seeing, where we can then improve the security posture of our clients by updating configurations within Defender for itself. So all of this fits very nicely together to essentially evolve our defenses, both Microsoft and Trustwaves, to really eradicate phishing from your environment. Okay, so as I mentioned, the managed phishing from Microsoft service is really designed and intended to unlock the value of the Defender for Office license. There's 4 really key benefits to this service. One is the reduced risk exposure you get from especially from an additional layered security approach that we are able to provide with this service. Second is around improved user awareness. So with this service, we really intend to make your end users that first line of defense. By training them up, we intend to have we intend to mitigate human risk across your environment and almost remove that vulnerability to really train up your end users. Third is operational efficiency. So here we will take over and doing those phishing simulations, as well as the threat response. A lot of teams are really struggling with alert fatigue, and this will help free up security teams and improve resource utilization and allow them to work on higher priority items. And then lastly is that enhanced threat visibility, where we would be able to provide the reporting and intelligence and provide actionable insights into attack trends and give recommendations on how to improve our client security posture, all natively within Microsoft Defender for Office. So lastly, why Trustwave? Well, Trustwave is very unique in being able to provide really great value for our Microsoft clients. And it's because we are the only provider in the world that has a world-class managed services team with a leading email security platform, where we can provide these services all natively within Microsoft. On top of that, we have, as you know, with Ed being on the call, we have our Spire Labs Elite Threat Research team that is an industry-leading team that we have dedicated phishing researchers for, that are constantly updating our intel that fuels a lot of our engines in the back end, as well as our close Microsoft partnership. So Trustwave has worked closely with Microsoft for quite some time, for years now, and we've been endorsed and validated by Microsoft and are considered a preferred global MSSP. So I will wrap it up with just saying, you know, Trustwave is in a very unique spot. Very excited about this new launch that we're offering around managed phishing from Microsoft, where I believe we're in a very unique we have a very unique proposition where we're able to pair up our world-class managed services and our leading email security platform to provide value in essentially reducing and eradicating phishing from our client's environment, all natively within Microsoft. And with that, I will pass it over to Alex to wrap it up.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that, Matt. And thanks to yourself and Ed for such an insightful session today. So let's talk around next steps and how we can leverage all of that incredible Trustwave expertise that Matt's just touched on in the next steps of your own phishing journey. So for a limited time offer, we are delighted to present a complimentary focused 30-minute workshop with our expert team to really dig into how to make the most of that E5 setup. And actually that workshop includes guidance on email setup, rules, policy tuning, so making sure that we're employing the best practices within our organization, diving into that human-led element that Matt really dug into with a review of your phishing simulation strategy, and then providing those risk mitigation insights, and then into threat response playbooks and reporting, and how we're getting that information up to our executive boards. As I mentioned, this is a limited time offer only, so it will be ending on the last day of August. If this sounds like it's of interest to you, stay tuned. So Matt will take you through how to get in contact with the Trustwave team to book one of these workshops once we've finished the Q&A today. And we'll also cover additional assets and content from a Trustwave perspective that you can take advantage of. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Mac to take us through the Q&A. And I can see that we've had some really exciting questions coming through from the audience. So Mac, do you want to take us away?
Thank you, Alex. Yes, this is all the material that we have prepared for you today, but now let's move on to the Q&A. From what I see, a few of you DM'd me directly, and I actually got a few emails. So let me read the first question has popped up. Is this service only for Microsoft organizations on E5? Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Mac. Correct. This managed phishing from Microsoft service is only for Microsoft users using or utilizing E5 and or Defender for Office Plan 2. Reason being is that license provides us the features and functionality, for example, the phishing simulations, in order to provide the service to our clients.
Thanks. If you're okay with another question, it's how do you tune or customize phishing simulations for each organization? Does one size fit them all?
So for the phishing training simulations, as I mentioned, during the first week of our engagement, we meet with the client to really tailor the phishing simulations throughout the year. So we understand what common applications they use, what recent threats they might have faced, to then tailor that content to our client's environment. The other thing that I'd like to mention is we also provide four essentially quarterly phishing simulations that are more ad hoc in nature, where we would meet with the client to really target certain users within your organization that we might want to give additional training to. So not a one size fit all. We definitely tailor these to our clients.
We have a question in the chat just appeared right now. One about the PDFs. I'll get to this in my marketing section in a second, but does this also include users on FY security and compliance add-ons?
I would have to look into F5, but if it has all of the features and functionality that E5 does, I do not see why we wouldn't be able to provide that service. So I think that's a follow-up action, Mac, for myself and others to look into. But if F5 has all the features and functionality E5 does, we should be able to provide this service.
Okay. Let me continue with the ones that have been sent through on DMs. It's how quickly can you get this service up and running?
We can get this service up and running pretty quickly. As I mentioned, there's a few key components to our provisioning process. One is getting our machine learning engines embedded within your environment. That will take at most a day. And then it would be meeting with our managed security team to review your policies, review the phishing simulation strategy that we would construct together, as well as getting some permissions within your Microsoft account in order for us to provide the service. But all in all, shouldn't take more than a week.
Okay. And last question that I got by email is a colleague of ours is asking, you mentioned that your service can reduce email-based threats with Defender for Office by 99%. How can you verify that?
Yep, thanks, Max. So one is a few ways. We test this on ourselves first of all. So we have Defender for Office as well as our own proprietary tools. And from the telemetry we've seen, we've been able to reduce phishing, BEC, and other email-based threats by over 99%. And what we've done as well for this service is we actually have a few use cases with clients as well that we have seen very, very similar results to. And we'd be able to share those use cases with you during those one-on-one sessions that Alex mentioned, if you do decide to book your session before the end of August.
Okay, another question that just popped up is how does this service offering from Trustwave leverage, align, or differ from automated investigation and response that is offered for organizations Microsoft Defender for Office 365 Plan 2?
Yep. So we actually, our managed security team, specifically our global threat operations team that's doing the phishing threat response, will work all completely natively within Microsoft. And that means that they will also be leveraging AIR, which is the automated incident response feature and function, a feature that Microsoft has. However, from what we've seen with a lot of our clients, is AIR does a great job at doing analysis and responding to threats, but it does not cover and respond to everything. There's many times where AIR still has results where they're unsure whether something's a phish or not, and that's where a global threat operations team can come in and ensure a right decision on whether to eradicate that threat or deem that it is not a threat and release it thereafter.
Okay, thank you. If there are no more questions, I'll be closing this Q&A. Oh, wait, we have another one. Last but not least, as part of the investigation, would Trustwave be updating IOCs?
We would be, yes.
That's one of the best answers to get, straightforward. I'll just give it maybe a second more. If there's anyone else that would like to ask the question. If not, okay. Thank you, Matt. So that is all for the Q&A. I would like to inform that all remaining questions, whether it be sent through DM or email, will be collected and answers in an updated FAQ after the webinar. Continuing on and finishing off, this is the last slide. Is like these are the simple next steps that you can do to keep the momentum going. And I would like to inform you all that we have three things at your disposal. Firstly, key resources. Right now, you can grab the managed phishing data sheet and full solution brief in PDF format. It's available on our website under that link that you can see, or just go on Trustwave, go and search and type in managed phishing. Today's webinar is recorded and will be available soon on our site as well. Secondly, we invite you to connect with our experts. Our Spiral Lab analysts and managed phishing specialists are ready to chat answer your questions, or show you a live demo in your own environment, just use the Trustwave contact form from our site. I would also like to invite all of you to follow us on LinkedIn or on the X, where we post a lot of technical content. And thirdly, lastly, I would like to invite you all to explore our advanced threat insights. Sign up to our quarterly Spider Labs phishing reports, read our AI-powered trend articles, and dive into red team case studies. These resources will keep you to be up to date with the latest phishing tactics and help you fine-tune your defenses. And with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to give an extended special thank you to Alex, Ed, and Matthew for their insights in today's presentation. We hope you found the session on managed phishing both informative and actionable. If you have any further questions, please reach out to me or to anyone from the Trustwave or via the contact form. Thank you once again for your time, and we look forward to partnering with you in the future. Have a great day and stay safe.